So, I mean, when you're hosting a panel that doesn't even bring in any other viewpoints. I'm back after being away on travel last week, and I saw this one come across my radar from the College Fix. Um, and one of the reasons I talk about higher education as much as I do is it is currently where we train the next generation of scientists. So let's talk about what higher education is doing. In that vein, and think about it a bit more. And you all know what I think on this if you've been following a channel long enough, that I do very much think that viewpoint diversity is important to STEM because of the nature of it being the reality based community that it is, to paraphrase off of Jonathan Rausch. Um, and the notion, of course, being that we check each other's biases. Well, how can you do that if you are working in a groupthink environment with these different kinds of things? So, of course, this has been the challenge at universities for a while now. Survey data plenty suggests some interesting problems on that front right now. And so it's interesting to see this from the University of Michigan. From the College Fix, merit-based hiring needed to improve diversity of thought at University of Michigan higher education groups. University of Michigan faculty applicants must be judged on academic merit, higher ed group says. The University of Michigan's promise to protect diversity of thought and freedom of expression must include real action, including prioritizing merit in hiring. Yes, according to higher education reform advocates. The comments come in response to College Fix questions about how the university can implement its new statement titled Principles on Diversity of Thought and Freedom of Expression, approved at the most recent Board of Regents meeting. Now, I have seen this more frequently in the last few years, that, starting to see institutions actually maybe kind of tiptoe around the edges that they potentially have a problem with an internal problem with academic freedom and free speech. And so I clicked on that and went over to the University Record, the University of Michigan, which is their news thing here. So, briefly from that, the University of Michigan has adopted a statement of principles on diversity of thought and free speech that is, quote, guided by the letter and spirit of the First Amendment and remains, quote, entirely consistent with our commitment to nurturing a diverse, equitable, and inclusive community. I remain very skeptical that DEI and free expression are compatible with each other. And the reason I remain skeptical of that, go back to Cynical Theories, because it was captured very nicely in the book Cynical Theories. A lot of DEI is based upon postmodern thought, or applied postmodernism, as they called it in Cynical Theories. And they don't brook dissent very well in the foundational literature of postmodernism. I'm sorry, you don't necessarily get rid of that foundational problem when you just start saying, oh, we're going to incorporate free speech into it. I don't think so. So I remain skeptical. We'll go on that one. The Board of Regents voted January 16th to approve the Principles on Diversity of Thought and Freedom of Expression, to make it clear that as a great public university, we enthusiastically embrace our responsibility to stimulate and support diverse ideas and model constructive engagement with different viewpoints. Now, if those include very fundamentally different viewpoints, then yes. But if it's you're agreeing on the fundamentals, but you're only disagreeing on a slight thing here, that's not really solid disagreement. President Santa J. Ono introduced the measure, which was first made public as a draft in October. Where is the actual... I'm actually curious where the actual statement is. Oh, here it is. Maybe. Yep, there it is. The actual statement. University of Michigan Principles on Diversity of Thought and Freedom of Expression. The University of Michigan serves the public through teaching and research. We create and advance knowledge. We prepare the next generation to participate in democracy. We fulfill our mission through rigorous scholarship and scrutiny in the humanities and sciences, in the arts and engineering, in every field and every discipline. Open inquiry and spirited debate, the lifeblood of our institution, promote discovery and creativity. A proud history of engaging with issues of great societal importance. Our 1988 Freedom of Speech and Artistic Expression Policy, built upon the 1977 Freedom of Speech Guidelines, performs protections for speakers, performers, and the audiences who assemble to watch and listen for protesters who are free to disagree but not disrupt the presentations. Our practice of confronting controversial topics is a hallmark of our culture. Okay. As a great public university guided by the letter and spirit of the First Amendment, we enthusiastically embrace our responsibility to stimulate and support diverse ideas and model constructive engagement with different viewpoints in our classrooms, labs, lecture series and symposia, studios and performance halls, exhibits and publications, and among our entire community of students, teachers, researchers, and staff. When we disagree on matters of intellectual significance, we make space for contesting perspectives. We must listen critically and self-critically. How about we just must listen? Our commitment to freedom of expression is entirely consistent with our commitment to nurturing a diverse, equitable, and inclusive community. I doubt it. I'm not going to lie. I doubt it given the foundational literature around DEI. I really, really doubt it. By bringing together individuals with different backgrounds, experiences, and viewpoints and supporting and empowering them to use their voices and share their views, we make our community stronger and advance our mission. We affirm the value of exchanging ideas, questioning assumptions, learning from those with whom we disagree, and those whose voices have been marginalized. Couldn't get away without that language in there. Challenging views we find misguided or pernicious, and engaging with the broadest range of scholarly subjects and materials. We strive to meet conflict and controversy with understanding and reasoning, refuting our opponents rather than revoking invitations or refusing them a platform, and contesting their ideas instead of attacking their characters. I mean, that is all nice and good in writing. We'll get back to that. Not all ideas are of equal value. Is precisely why they must be subject to intense scrutiny and thoughtful debate. Our deep commitment to free expression does not extend to speech or conduct that violates the law or university policy, including targeted speech that constitutes bullying, defamation, destruction of property, discrimination, harassment, violence, or threats. And the university may reasonably regulate the time, place, and manner of expression to ensure that it does not disrupt the university's ordinary activities. We recognize that free inquiry and expression can offend. Every member of our academic community should expect to confront ideas that differ from their own, however uncomfortable those encounters may be. We commit to these principles because they help us create, discover, and fulfill our vital mission. Now, all that is well and nice and good. Let's go back here for a moment because I'm going to make a point about this. All of that is well and nice and good. And the solid point to go with that is nice words on paper are nothing without actual action and enforcement to back them up, because the same nice sentiments were spoken, at least somewhat, by the university presidents of Harvard, MIT, and Penn before Congress. And one of the reasons that so many people reacted so negatively to that testimony was because while they mouthed the platitudes, if you will, it was very clear by that point that their universities did not practice what was being spoken, or at least not evenly, as it were. But let me continue because that's the point here with this particular article also. Deferred question. Okay. A university spokesperson deferred to the original news release when asked for comment on the implementation of the resolution. That is the question. Statements are not enough, according to the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, FIRE, which provided input on the latest resolution. Quote, schools adopting free expression statements can't stop there. They must continue to foster a community that supports free speech through programming throughout students' time on campus and collect data on how successful these efforts are. Laura Belts, the FIRE director for policy reform, wrote in an email to College Fix. Quote, the university should examine whether all of its policies and practices align with these principles on freedom of expression, including whether faculty applicants are judged on academic merit as opposed to alignment with university-approved viewpoints. This is the thing. This is the thing, making sure some sort of subtle things don't happen. involved here. Belts praised the university's actions towards implementing their new principles thus far. I will not go that far. I will not go that far to give them praise. There's nice words on paper. It will be very interesting to see whether there's actual enforcement and implementation of such things, or if it gets undermined. Quote, the University of Michigan seems to be, this is the fire person, by the way. The University of Michigan seems to be taking the right steps here by adopting a panel to recommend ways to put the principles into practice and to continuously engage students on these issues. There will also be a second panel to evaluate how effective that has been and make recommendations for the next academic year. A former Villanova professor who now works in the American Council of Trustees and Alumni shared similar comments. Quote, the University of Michigan should make a concerted effort to hire faculty and staff and admit students based on merit without applying any sort of ideological litmus test. Stephen McGuire, a campus freedom fellow with ACTA, told the Fix via a media statement. Quote, the university should certainly reevaluate its hiring policies and procedures in addition to other policies to make them consistent with this new statement. The goal should not be to hire conservatives per se, but to build a campus culture that is open to conservatives and libertarians, as it is to scholars of other political persuasions. University leaders should embrace the statement and host programming on campus to promote and celebrate it. They should feature it prominently on the university's website, refer to it when addressing the university community, and include presentations on it in new student, staff, and faculty orientations every year. Regent Ronald Weiser said it is up to, quote, to the executive officers to execute the policy when asked during a phone interview about plans moving forward. He said the university is looking forward and not backward. When the Fix asked about revisiting past cancellations of professors and hiring practices, Weiser himself has been targeted for cancellation by some of the university community for allegedly not condemning the violence on January 6, 2021 enough. Specifically, the Fix asked about Bright Sheng, a University of Michigan professor who faced investigation but ultimately no sanctions after showing a movie that included a character. Included a character in blackface. Excuse me. That was what the professor did. By the way, you can make of it what you will. But yeah, the University of Michigan hosted a diversity of thought panel that focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, and excluded conservative viewpoints. This is actually what I worry about, because there's a lot of folks who don't agree with the fundamental premises of DEI, in which you can count me perhaps as one of them. Well, no, you could count me as one of them. So, I mean, when you're hosting a panel that doesn't even bring in any other viewpoints. The university created the panel after a controversy when a pro-life medical school professor faced criticism but was not canceled after the school asked her to give a speech to new med students. However, the subsequent panel only included liberal viewpoints according to a Fix analysis. When asked about the university's past diversity of thought events, Weiser said aggressive policies must be followed, but did not elaborate further. He said the resolution is not necessarily new, but reinforces a policy that was put in place many years ago, which people have forgotten by now. Thanks to the new statement, people will be much more cognizant of it than they would have been otherwise if we hadn't redone it again. Redone it again is the thing there, that you keep redoing it, but it seems not to stick. Or it seems, based on what I read, not to stick. Now, you can make of what you will the different incidences that were talked about in the article. But my point is with this, the words on paper sound nice. They do. They're good platitudes, for the most part. Whether or not they actually follow through with it and start changing the university culture in a way that is actually open to diversity of thought again and goes back to the primary mission of truth-seeking is a different question. But that is why one must bear watching on these certain kinds of things rather than just presuming, oh, hey, look, it's a nice expression, they're doing the right thing, presuming they're doing the right thing when they put up the nice, pretty expressions. So that kind of thing, you got to keep watching and see if they actually follow through on it in a meaningful way. And hopefully, to the benefit of improving actual viewpoint diversity, but then also to the benefit of the sciences in that case also. But anyway, let me know what you think. Hit the like button on the way at the door, comment on the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, all that lovely good jazz. Until next time, I'm Adrian. Stay curious, everybody.